Hello, hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to day 9 of our self-love challenge. Today we're digging deeper into beliefs, and hopefully you're becoming a little more aware of some of the beliefs you have playing in the background. And this is really where I want to start today, is that a belief is something that we have thought over and over again. But where did that thought originally come from, right? So most of our beliefs, our core beliefs, they have been instilled into us by the time we're 7 years old. So I don't know about you, but for me, I don't have too many memories of before I was 7 years old. And I think that's probably a pretty normal thing. So these beliefs got instilled into us at a very young age. And it can be very difficult to know which of the beliefs are playing out, which beliefs you even have, because they are like deeply ingrained into the subconscious, right? We didn't really have control then. We were like wet cement, and these things just got put onto us. I actually saw a video earlier today, and it was this guy saying, like, how we speak to our kids really matters. And he was taking a 3-year-old who 3-year-olds are generally not good at sharing. It's part of that developmental stage. But as a child, if you were 3 years old and your parent or caregiver at daycare or whatever says to you, you're really bad at sharing, the 3-year-old then takes that in and creates that belief about themselves. Then their thoughts start repeating, I am not good at sharing, I am not good at sharing, and then that becomes their reality. Whereas if the parent or caregiver had said, oh, I know it can be difficult to share, but I know that you are a good sharer, then the 3-year-old will repeat that thought, I'm a good sharer, and then that reality ensues. So these beliefs are deeply ingrained in us. And it can be difficult to know that you have them. So like for me, when I started therapy, I honestly, I was just hurting so bad and I wanted to feel better. I couldn't take the pain anymore. But I didn't realize that I had these beliefs of unworthiness, of not enoughness, of not being lovable. I didn't realize I even had them. And it wasn't until the therapist made me say, I am worth it, and it just felt weird, but consciously, I didn't realize I had it. I thought I was worth it. I thought I believed I was lovable. I thought I believed I was valuable. But these behaviors, triggers, all these things kept happening, and it was like very unsettling inside. So digging into that, it's not as easy as just like, okay, I see this belief, I'm gonna believe something else, and then ta-da, It's so much deeper than that. Like, you literally have to go back to something you don't even remember happening, right? Because it happened before you were 7 most of the time. And those get instilled in you, and then they just run the show. So you gotta tap into the subconscious to switch it. And how do we do that? Interesting. Let me clear my throat. So the way we do this is in real time. And that's something else that we really need to talk about too, is being present and the whole now thing. Like everything, any healing that we're going to do is going to happen in the present moment. And I feel like this is one of the things that, like, therapy, like, I love therapy. I really do. It's great. I recommend it highly. But just thinking about your past memory and replaying it over and over does not heal you. What is healing, how you get into the subconscious, is in this present moment. So let's say, something happens and you're feeling a certain way about it. That's your opportunity to say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? What is my story about what is happening? What belief is it tied to? Okay? And when was the first time that I can remember feeling this way? What are other times in life that I remember feeling this way? Because oftentimes these triggers happening in real time, it's the same exact feeling that you felt 20, 30 years ago. So that feeling, then you can look into and you can say, oh, this has me feeling like I'm not enough, right? I can remember feeling this then. And then you can kind of go back to that and revisit it, right? Like when you were a kid and you were told that, you had to go play outside and don't come back in until it's dark, right? And like maybe that made you feel like you weren't wanted, or you were too much inside, or whatever it made you feel like. But then throughout life, there are other examples of this same thing happening, because that is the belief that's running. So you can go back to that and say, it wasn't because there was something wrong with you. It was because the people who were giving you care didn't know any better. I know for me personally, I didn't start my healing journey until after my kids are 7. And I kind of have a lot of guilt about that. I wish that I would have known that I was as fucked up as I am before that, because, there's a lot of things that I would have done differently. However, I have made peace with that. I've made peace with the fact that all of these things that, came from my parents or my caregivers, didn't have to do with me, and it did have to do with them, but they were still doing the best that they knew how to do. There's no doubt in my mind that my parents were trying their best. It's just they had their own shit that they didn't look at yet, because, frankly, mental health was taboo until not too long ago, and it's still pretty taboo. Whenever you speak out about conscious parenting, it's not the norm. It's kids running around being loud is still kind of frowned upon. When I take my kids over to my in-laws, we have to act differently, just to keep the peace, which, that's a whole nother episode, but it is what it is. And a lot of the times people aren't doing it to I know for a fact my parents didn't do the things they did because they wanted me to think I was a piece of shit, right? Doesn't change the fact that it did. I love them so much, and I know they were doing their best. And it's my responsibility to go back in and realize that, hey, they never meant it to do that. It just kind of happened. And I have a responsibility to actually change my belief and see the truth. And there's so much power in the moment the present moment, whatever you're feeling, like when did that feeling first start coming up for you? You know, going back to that and making this unconscious conscious. And then that is the start of the rewiring. These things still pop up though, because there's more to clear. I also want to mention that, you know, having kids was really eye-opening for me. I wouldn't have gone on this journey if I hadn't had my kids. Seeing their innocence and their playfulness, their love for themselves when they're like super little. Even my 15-year-old right now, like when he walks by the mirror, he's like checking himself out. He knows he's hot shit. Like, that was not me whenever I was 15. When I was 15, I was looking at the mirror like, what the fuck, you disgusting piece of shit, right? And there's a funny story with that. You know, when I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade, my family and I had went to a pet store, and my dad said, like he was pretending to be a bird, big old ugly girl, talking about me, you know? And it really hurt my feelings. I brought it up, and he apologized. So it should be all good, right? I still struggle with this. Even though I know he didn't mean it, he apologized. It was a joke. Haha, funny. When I looked at myself in the mirror when I was 15, I thought I was ugly. You know? That's how powerful parents are. You can know logically, but still ingrained into your like DNA is this belief, you know, that whatever. So when they're kids, they're so free and happy. And you know, we can say that, oh, that's just a kid thing. But I know adults who have done a lot of work on themselves, and they are very childlike in that way. Like, you know, they pay their bills and they have their responsibilities, but they're free and they believe in themselves, and they look at the mirror and are happy with what they see, and they dance and they twirl and they're just playful, you know? So I don't think that it's like growing up that does this. It's the conditioning to dim your light, to not be too much, to keep the peace, you know? Like, be quiet, don't argue. So what I want you to think about is, when was the first time that you stopped looking at yourself with love in the mirror? When was the first time that you started being critical to yourself? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop playing? There's another thing that I have a lot of guilt about. I don't know how to play with my kids. I'm getting better at it, but like, I always just played by myself when I was a kid, or with other kids, you know? Like, there was no playing with mom and dad, like, and it makes me feel really bad whenever I'm like, I don't want to play, you know? It's just like, I don't know how. I'm working on it though. I'm working on bringing back that playfulness. And when did all this stop for you? Look at that time. What was going on around that time? What had people said to you? How did that make you feel? Was it true? I know you believed it then, but we can go back now and say, hey, I believed that because I was naive and I like trusted them and I thought that they knew. But it wasn't true. There was That's something that was inside of them being projected onto me. And that is how we can kind of start to shift it. And it is like, these things are so subtle. So anytime you're triggered, you know, go into that and figure out, where did it come from? And why did I take it on? Can I let it go now? What would I like to replace it with? So really quick, we're gonna do a short little exercise where we're gonna close our eyes, take some breaths, in through your nose and out through your mouth, air going from your feet into the earth. Let out any noises, any stagnant energy. And I want you to imagine this hard, concrete thing in your body that's holding all of these limiting beliefs of not belonging, not being lovable, not being enough, unworthiness, being ugly. Whatever you have, they're all there. Now, I want you to imagine yourself pouring acid on this concrete, dissolving it away. Ooh, it's all gone now, melted away, dissipated. And now I want you to imagine pouring wet concrete What beliefs are we going to pour into this new wet concrete? I am worthy. I am lovable. I am enough. I belong. I'm safe. I'm valuable. I fucking matter. Damn it. You can imagine a beautiful sunset as we're doing this. You can watch the concrete get harder and harder with these new, beautiful, empowering beliefs. You can open your eyes. Now, this isn't going to do all the work, but it's a start. And you can watch your triggers as they come up, and instead of reacting and getting upset, realizing that it is an opportunity to dismantle another one of these bullshit ass lies that we've believed for so long about ourselves. You can start to take your power back one trigger at a time. In the present moment, right here, right now. I hope that this helps, and I'll see you tomorrow.